Hello and welcome. A short video about something that plagues me for quite some time now. And yeah, what can I say? We have in XP12, I forgot to turn on the logo here. In XP12, we currently have, or I currently have, three problems: performance, anti-aliasing, and auto exposure. Now, this video is about the third one, auto exposure, because it's the one that you can actually fix. The anti-aliasing is a known problem, not for everyone, with very high resolutions, and I'm not sure what some people are doing differently, that they do not see it, as, at least not as bad as I do. But I know there's a lot of people out there that have flickering, the crooked lines and all that. Because anti-aliasing doesn't work yet. It seems that Lamina put in kind of a limiting on the anti-aliasing in order to keep performance up. Having said that, since 1209, also the first of my 3 points, the performance, has actually improved. And I have to say 1209 seems to be performance boost. Definitely. So with my old PC, I have an 8-year-old PC. It's a 3070 Ti here, so the graphic card is definitely up to the job. My CPU is an old i7-7700K. It's 4.2 gigahertz. It's, at the time it was top of the pops, but now, well, I'm probably in the lower range, at least possibility. So CPU was a bit of a bottleneck. Apparently, since 1209, this bottleneck is not so much a bottleneck anymore. I do get really good frames, acceptable frames with acceptable settings. So let's come back to the actual problem, why I'm making this video. Now what you can see is, and I think on the video it comes even more, because it depends a little bit on your screen, how much of the cockpit you're able to see on daylight, full sun. If you have a more darkish screen, you will probably see it like in the video, which in the video it looks really pitch black. There's nothing I can see from the cockpit. I can't even make out exactly where the switches are, and any of the writing doesn't show up. So this is something that Lamina put in as reality kind of feature. And I have to say, though, in MSFS, they did something similar. It's called auto exposure. And the idea is that when there's glaring sunlight, then everything in the shadow, so the contrast kind of is higher, and therefore things get dark. But having said that, if you sit in a GA aircraft like this here, and I sit in a car on the tarmac, we're basically having the same kind of views and the same kind of light and exposure. My brain and my eyes adjust very quickly, so I will never have this situation where I can almost see nothing unless I'm directly blinded by the sun. That's a different story, but that looks different anyway. But to have an unusable cockpit is definitely a problem. I know that Lamina has accepted that this is something they need to fix, but like with anti-aliasing, which is supposed to be tackled in 12.10 coming in the next, I don't know, weeks, months. We're on 1209 now. Auto exposure has been accepted that they need to do something about it, but it's not on the priority list. It's very clearly, there are other things that are more important, and obviously Lamina will concentrate on those things. For example, the performance, which I think is a good idea. I actually am not that... It doesn't really bother me that much with the auto exposure, because that's why I do this video. There are some solutions. They're not perfect, but at least we have something that makes us able to bring back, let's see, reasonable visibility in the cockpit. And I'll show you the three things that I've found. So the first one is a rather long forum. There are actually several forum threads. Some of them are huge. And this topic of cockpit lights, it's actually cockpit lights, but it also covers the auto exposure thing. So it's not only, it's also about lights in the dark. It's not in at least some of these threads, but this is actually mainly about the fact that the cockpits are too dark. It's quite a large one. I'll put you the link will be in the description. You can read at your heart's delight, and you can already see the Cessna. It's far too dark. It wouldn't be like that. Your personal impression wouldn't be like that. And there's a lot of talk about it, and also some nonsense being said. But the good thing is, I found Tadeo Primo from Brazil. He actually gave me these lines. So this was one of the first things that I tried, and I can confirm that this actually makes a difference. And you can see what the difference is between the auto exposure, making everything very dark in the shadow, especially like just have seen. But yeah, you need to kind of manually tuck these things in, and yeah, it's not perfect. There is a second, and I think you can find this also on the forum. I just happen to have the link on the flight sim on the XP12 site, which is another now parallel site where you can get mainly XP12 add-ons, but most of it you will also find on the forum explain.org. There were just more pictures here, so that's why I chose this one. So the enhancer is actually something. There is a little menu here. Unfortunately, you can't read it, and you can see you can modify quite a lot of the lighting, but also other settings. I'm going to show you this script in more detail, maybe in another video. I'm still torn whether or not I want to use the XP12 enhancer. So ideally, at some point, Lamina will kind of, I don't want to call it fix, but adjust. Let's call it adjust, because it's not bugs. It's something that has been done with all this complicated lighting algorithms, and let's not forget, they've done something which is really, compared to the old simulator, is really good and interesting. It just has some side effects, which in a simulator like we have here is not good. It's not practical to have it. And hopefully they can optimize it in a way that covers both. You will see a little bit of the auto exposure effect, but not to the extent where you cannot see anything, where you cannot read anything. Yeah, especially when you have analog instruments and things like that. Because I think it's very unrealistic that during the day you need to turn on the lights in the cockpit. On a bright and sunny day in a real airplane, as for example in a real car, you wouldn't turn on any lights. What for? Because even on a gray day, you have enough light that everything is bright. So I'm hoping that they are able to get rid of the apparent issue. There's actually a third one, and this is the one that I'm going to show you first. This is a script in Lua. You need fly with Lua. Try and get the latest version. This script is not maintained anymore, but it's okay because it's a workaround at the moment, and it still works. Yep. So I'm going to show you how this works and what you can do and what the effects are, and you can then decide if this is something that might be worthwhile trying for yourself. Now, as this is Fly with Lua, I have activated the script now. You can do that while the simulator is running. I'm doing a reload Lua script, and what we do now have is if you go to flywheel lure macros, and then you have to look for auto exposure settings. I think you can also program a key. And now let's see what it does. First of all, minimum sun angle for cutoff. So it kind of allows you to control the auto exposure mechanism and limit it to a certain degree. Now the thing with the angles, I leave that as it is because it hasn't really made a difference for me. But what is definitely going to help is exposure value at maximum. Now, the further to the right, it's like you're putting on very dark sunglasses, almost impermeable sunglasses. The further to the left, the more glass you have on your sunglasses, kind of. And here's exactly the point. There's the minimum. Now, the minimum will not help you with the auto exposure if that is a problem for you. So you can leave it at whatever value. It's this down here. That's the one. And you can, on the video, things still look pretty dark. On my screen, it's not as dark. And even on the video, at least on my window here for checking it, I can see that it has sort of become usable. Now, if you go down, what you can see now is it doesn't matter whether I look down or not. If I look down, things get bright anyway. Yeah. If I look up with the normal settings, things will get dark. So you look down. Oh no, actually not with the script. So once you have the script activated, it will it sticks. The setting sticks. So that's a way to turn off the ever-changing dark and bright and dark and bright thing. You would save the settings, so the next time it starts, I think it will then reload the settings. And that's actually, for me, sort of is a workaround. Yeah, let's be honest. By the way, this is the standard laminar SR22, for which I actually did get the reality expansion pack recently, and still haven't had time to check it. So yeah, and you can really see the stark contrast between the sunlight and the rest of the cockpit. If you're looking down, then you can actually see the cockpit. As soon as you look out, things disappear. And unfortunately, the standard view that people like me use is something like this. And at least now on a reasonably bright screen, it's always difficult in the video. It might actually turn out quite okay when you watch it. I can only see the kind of preview screen. But I can tell you, that's all I need. I don't need more than that. Yeah, this is fine. This works. So as I said, there's also this other thing, the RXP XP12 enhancer. It also messes, if you want to call it that, with a lot of the optical sort of settings in the sim. And it improves lighting, some aspects of the lighting, things that, in my view, again, I see them as workarounds, because ideally Lamina, and they have done, especially with regards to the lighting and the dreaded, when it gets dark, it gets slow kind of phenomenon that we had a lot even with standard scenery. They have fixed that. There has been a 60 gigabyte scenery update, so lighting is great. To a certain degree, you can also manipulate settings that would help you with the auto exposure thing. And I'm quickly showing you the script. But the real fix with workaround, I don't want to call it fix, is the auto exposure script, if you use that. But I show you also what the other one looks like. Again, you need flywheel lure. It's a flywheel lure script. That's the great stuff. Reality XP XP12 enhancer. Current version is 1.9.0, at least when I loaded it a couple of days ago. And you can see here an awful lot of switches. One of them is, the first one is the shadow and lighting. And enhanced exposure, you see, things do change. So this script kind of runs and makes certain changes. If you turn on the enhanced exposure stuff, it will actually, and you can adjust the contrast, for example. So you can make certain aspects. So this is not only about auto exposure, this is about several things. For example, night lighting gets improved. You need to really play with these settings. There's no point explaining to you, but you see now what happened. Got even brighter. So the combination of the two with certain settings, at least in the cockpit, make this really, really usable. Yeah, but it might look a little bit odd then when we are on the outside, or some things might look a little bit overexposed now. So you need to really play with the settings. So I wouldn't really like that so much. So I would probably have the contrast lower. And again, there's a bit of cloud stuff. There's a bit of raindrops. There's also, by the way, for those that with the dreaded flicker lights, which you can probably see in the video if you have a reasonable screen. You see the shadows, the stairs here, the crooked lines, and the flicker that comes with it, especially when things move. There is a setting called Enable FXAA with MSAAs. That means they activate another mechanism, which is basically available, which then goes and kind of softens things, which, and that's the reason why I use this one here, this takes a little bit away of the very obvious flickering. It's not gone, but it's not as pronounced, and by softening the obfuscating a little bit the hard lines and all, it gets less obvious. So the Reality XP enhancer helps you with the cockpit problem, and with a little bit also with the crooked lines. Not perfect, and eventually Alarmina will probably have a, let's say, reasonable compromise between the performance, the anti-aliasing, and the visual appearance that we have. And hopefully then I won't need the likes of the XP12 enhancer anymore. So that was it. I just wanted to show you that. I'm going to put the links of all three in the description, but I guess you see the difference now. The fact that this cockpit looks a little bit washy, sort of, yeah, is just the way it has been designed. It isn't the most crisp in some areas. There's also these strange, I think called ambient occlusion or something, effects. And yes, you can see certain flicker lines here wherever there is a bright straight line. Yeah, because they're not getting softened. Also due to the fact that I'm running on 1K, so 1080p resolution. I think this whole thing has been designed for more than 1080p. Something like 2K or 4K resolutions, where you will most likely not see most of the effects that I do see. And things probably look much crisper when you do. Okay, that's it. Thanks for watching. Until next time.